올림픽위원회 대변인 다마. 우리의 고유한 영토를 강탈하기 위해 신성한 올림픽 운동의 이념과 정신도 어지럽히는
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where we always strive to be your home for helpful extremist content. And today, we're going to be talking about North Korean music videos and the new style that's been introduced. At this point, a question arises. Why am I talking about North Korean music videos? Which, it's a long story, but here's the TLDR version.
위대한 10월 명절을 앞두고 환희와 경축의 물결이 뜨겁게 굽이치던
The thing about anything to do with North Korea or the DPRK is that it is ensconced, just shrouded by a fog of bullshit. You've got your Western media bullshit, which is largely just translated versions of South Korean bullshit published by South Korea's premier right-wing newspaper, Chosunilbo. And if that weren't enough, then you've got North Korea's own homemade bullshit. Though I have to say that is actually the more honest of the lot, because at least it doesn't pretend to be anything other than government PR. More sophisticated propaganda systems will frame an issue and frame it in a way where there is a range of acceptable conclusions to make viewers and readers feel that they've come to this on their own, that they've worked it out themselves, which of course to a certain extent they have, except the conclusions, the correct conclusions, the acceptable range of opinion is very strongly suggested by the framing. North Korean propaganda does not bother with that. North Korean propaganda just tells you what conclusion you're supposed to be drawing, and does so loudly. The DPRK is such a bullshit-intensive issue because it's also just next to impossible to fact-check it. Foreign visitors are limited to this pre-arranged tour of sites that the authorities think show the country in the most positive light. Contact with locals is kept to an absolute minimum. Practically anyone that you're likely to meet on a visit to the DPRK is somebody whose job is to deal with foreigners. In other words, this just isn't a country where you can just send a couple of journos round to check out a rumor you read in the Chosunilbo. That just doesn't work. And so, nobody bothers to check out anything, and the South Korean and Western media just go around reporting even just the most bizarre, unsourced claims as fact, and, for example, pronouncing people dead because they haven't been seen on TV in a bit. More on that later. As a result, North Korea reporting is probably the easiest media job on the planet that still gets called journalism. Heard something that makes the DPRK look bad? Is it suitably weird? Just shut up and take my column space. The upshot of all this is that anyone trying to make sense of anything to do with North Korea is left to read tea leaves. You have to take a combination of accounts from visitors and defectors and combine that with a close reading of the subtleties of DPRK media output, which again is not exactly long on subtlety, and other information that can be gleaned with some level of reliability, say from like satellite images and stuff like that. You're also largely left to deal with symbolic issues, with symbolism in DPRK media. And one example of that is the latest music videos released by the DPRK, which are a major stylistic shift from pretty much anything that has come before them. Okay, I hear you ask, why do we care? Well, maybe you don't, in which case I won't take up any more of your time. And just to show there are no hard feelings, allow me to offer the following YouTube search term: talking porcupine. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. It's easily some of the best content on the whole platform, and I'm including my own stuff in that comparison. Now, assuming you haven't gone off to check out Talking Porcupines, which I've half talked myself into doing by this point, here's the thing. There's a context. And here's the context. In February of this year, the Workers' Party of Korea, Chosun-Rodongdang, held its 8th Party Congress. Now, it's difficult to get all that much in the way of detail on the Congress, but we do have Kim Jong-un's closing address where he said,
우리 당이 지난 시기 당 대회들과는 달리 이번 대회에서 자기 사업을 긍정적인 면에서가 아니라 비판적인 견지에서 냉정하게 분석 정화한 것은 정결기간의 거둔 성과들에 못지않은 큰 의의를 가집니다. 본 대회에서는 제7기 당중앙검사위원회 사업 총화도 비판적으로 엄중히 진행하였으며 당 사업과 당 활동에서 지난 시기에 낡은 것, 현실과 맞지 않던 문제들을 당 건설 원리에 맞게 우리식으로 바로잡기 위한 결정적인 대책을 세웠습니다.
Of course, it's not entirely clear just what was critically analyzed. The main thing you hear on KCTV, Korea Central TV, about the 8th Congress is the 5-year plan and what everybody needs to be doing in order to keep up with it, and what sort of great innovations are going to come out of it. For example, for a while, the big thing to talk about was cable TV, which is, I suppose they must have a problem with reception quality or something. However, there are some things that definitely did come out of the 8th Congress, and the various follow-on meetings that have been held of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party, of the Political Bureau of the Workers' Party, the Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il Youth League, the Trade Union Federation, and numerous others, including the party cell secretaries, which is sort of the lowest level secretaries, the bottom of the party food chain. But there's some things that have definitely shown up. One is that the Workers' Party has a new rule book, and that rule book doesn't mention Kim Jong-un by name anywhere. That may seem a bit like a so what, but that's not common in North Korea. Basically, everything has to refer somehow to one of the Kims. Like, literally, you can check out, say, a textbook on semiconductors or network security, and there will be an introduction, and that introduction will start out with a quote, usually from Kim Jong-il. And that quote would be something terribly insightful, like the development of the semiconductor industry is very important for the revolution in construction. Speaking of Kim Jong-il, at the Congress, he was sacked as Eternal General Secretary, and Kim Jong-un took his job. Which, I mean, that has to suck, really. I mean, what do you say at the job center when you get sacked from the post of Eternal General Secretary? They're not going to want to place you. Other than that, a new post was created in the party, and observers widely believe that that's intended to be the successor of Kim Jong-un, which is remarkable because it would be the first example of a successor in the history of the DPRK who isn't a direct descendant of the current leader. There seems to be overall just a shift towards the authority of the party rather than the authority of the leader. Other than that, everybody on TV has changed the way that they refer to Kim Jong-un. Previously, you'd hear him referred to largely as 위대한 최고領導자, which translates as the Great Supreme Leader, which was a little bit of a promotion over his father, Kim Jong-il's title, which was 위대한領導자, or just Great Leader. But since the 8th Congress, you only really ever hear him referred to either as 경애하는 총비서 동지, Respected Comrade General Secretary, his party title, or simply 경애하는 Kim Jong-un 동지, Respected Comrade Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-un. In songs, you still hear him referred to by his military title of 원수님, which means marshal. But basically, you practically never hear him referred to as the great or leader. I say practically because just recently on the 27th of July, I saw one example, which was the first I'd seen in months, of the great being attached to his name. But there it was just 위대한 김정은 동지, the great comrade Kim Jong-un. Now, another thing that it's really hard to say what, if anything, it means, probably not much, is that the word communism is making a comeback. For the past decade or so, starting under Kim Jong-il and continuing for a while under Kim Jong-un, the word was being deleted from everything from the Constitution to songs to just all sorts of things. They changed all sorts of song lyrics from the 60s and 70s to remove references to moving towards communism. The previous idea had been that the system existing in the DPRK is a transitional phase, and that when the material conditions are ripe, then there would be a transition to communism. And starting in around 2009, they had just kind of eliminated the whole idea that there was anything transitional about any of this. And now, all of a sudden, starting at the gala concert, actually, of that commemorated the 8th Party Congress, there's starting to be more and more talk of moving towards communism again, which, who knows what any of that means, but that's just sort of shown up. So it's this sort of indication of an ideological shift that is the context in which these major stylistic changes in North Korean music videos take on meaning. Now we're just going to look at a couple of the major music groups in North Korea in the past decade or so. This first one here is the Ensemble Electronic Ensemble, playing one of a very small number of songs that are popular in both the North and the South, and not illegal in the South. This next one is a joint performance by the Wang Jae-san Light Music Band, much like the Chongpong Band. The Wang Jae-san Light Music Band has been around for ages, so roughly as long as the Ensemble Electronic Ensemble, with their wonderful logo. And they play sort of light orchestral music. There's a lot of membership overlap as well. We'll see between the Chongpong Band and the Wang Jae-san Band and the Moranbong Band, which we'll be seeing later. It's worth noting that one of the vocalists of the Ensemble Electronic Ensemble, Hyun Song-wol, was reported in the Chosun Ilbo on 29th of August 2013 to have been executed by firing squad on the orders of Kim Jong-un, along with 11 other performers, including violinist Moon Kyung-jin, supposedly for making illegal pornographic videos. However, Hyun Song-wol does seem to have recovered from that, because she went on to lead the Moranbong Band. She also showed up in the Chongbong Band, and ended up as a member of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party. So this is why it's probably a good idea to take anything from the Chosun Ilbo with a considerable grain of salt. Here they're playing Sol Nuna Neryora, which is a song that, the title means "Let the Snow Fall on Lunar New Year." It was one of the songs that was in their program when they Samjion Orchestra and a group of other musicians came down to Seoul a few years ago as part of the cultural exchange that also saw some South Korean bands go up to Pyongyang. Now, this is the Unhasu Orchestra, which is rumored to have been disbanded. Certainly we haven't seen it in a few years. And the vocal soloist here is Ri Sol-ju. Now, you don't see her performing all that often, but that is not to say that you don't see her anymore at concerts at all.
사교주의 위협을 승리의 한길로 억세게 이끄시는 총비서동지에 대한 다함없는 흠모의 정을 담아 열광적인 만세의 환호를 거쳐 올렸습니다.
As I said, you don't see her at, you see her at concerts still, but now Ri Sol-ju is in the audience. She went on to marry Kim Jong-un. This literally happens every single time he enters a room, including the music. Well, if it's a public thing, I don't imagine he has the band play when he's just sort of walking into his living room or something.
조선노동당 중앙위원회 정치부 상무위원회 위원들인 최룡해 동지, 조영원 동지, 리병철 동지, 김덕훈
People
동지와
always make a point as well of clapping with their hands held quite high and visible to the cameras, even though that's actually a very uncomfortable way to clap. Which might be something to do with the fact that Jang Song-taek, a senior minister, was executed on suspicion of trying to set up a leadership challenge in the Workers' Party some years ago. And one of the accusations against him, and this was broadcast on North Korean television, they actually made it quite public, was that he was insufficiently enthusiastic in applauding Kim Jong-un. So that certainly will have been an incentive to make sure that your enthusiasm in applauding him when he enters a room is visible. And now we come to probably one of the two best-known musical acts in North Korea, at least best known abroad, the Moranbong Band, who are known for, among other things, their much less conventional, much less formal costumes a lot of the time, including skirts that actually show knees, which you don't see a lot in stage acts in North Korea, and the fact that they've introduced a lot of very sort of poppy, rocky sort of sounds to the music that you didn't hear quite all that much of before that. Here they are performing at a conference of Air Force officers, hence the flight suits that they're wearing. Now, it's been a while since they've actually appeared on stage, but on the other hand, some of their singers have certainly appeared on stage. I mean, there's a certain amount of overlap between these groups. You'll see somebody appear as part of the Chongbong Band one day, and then they're in the Moranbong Band, especially the vocalists. And there's also a very flavor of the month sort of approach to musical acts there, where one group will be just totally favored in these major gala concerts, for sometimes years on end. Like the Moranbong Band were everywhere for much of the past decade, and then somebody else will end up being everywhere. Right now, it seems to be the State Affairs Commission Ensemble, in particular the Kim Ok-ju, a vocalist who also was a soloist with the Moranbong Band for some time, and perhaps even still is, though it's been a while since they have shown up at any of these concerts as the Moranbong Band. They also played Seoul and that cultural exchange, although not as the Moranbong Band. And here, throughout all of it, is the state-merited chorus of the Korean People's Army. They have been backup singers for basically every single one of the acts mentioned here. This is them singing what is officially translated as Chollima on the Wing, but the literal, the title is Chollima 달린다, which means Chollima is running. Where they got on the wing, I have absolutely no idea, but this is a thing that happens quite often with these official English translations, because they don't really have any native English speakers to be checking these things for them, so you get a lot of really sort of weird translations that don't make a whole lot of sense. But the state-merited chorus you basically see everywhere. And if you see a male voice choir music video with a male voice choir in the background, it's them. They've appeared with Chongpong, they've appeared with the Samcheon Orchestra, with Wang Jie-san, with the Moranbong Band, pretty much everywhere. They've also done some international performances. At one point there was a joint performance with the Russian 21st Century Orchestra as well, which was remarkable because it had, it included a Russian sung translation of one of their repertoire, the song 용원이 번영하여라, let the age of the Workers' Party prosper. Okay, now let's talk about the videos themselves, since after all this is a video about the music videos. One thing about North Korean music videos is you can basically never tell them apart. They're always showing a montage of stock footage of the exact same stuff. Like here we have the sun. Now that may seem quite normal, I mean the sun is a common thing to be showing. You know, impressive sunsets and stuff, but in North Korea, the sun means Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. So it's everywhere as a reference to the leader. In fact, that's to the extent that in that song I mentioned about the Lunar New Year's snow, they actually had to change a line when they performed it in Seoul because the song refers to a country blessed by the sun. 해양의 축복받은 삼천리강섬에, and they had to actually change that because as far as the South Korean censors were concerned, that was a reference to the blessings of Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung, which you don't get to do. That's not something permitted under the State Security Act. Now, as we'll see, a lot of this stuff, it's just straight up stock footage. There's very rarely anything that is shot specifically for these videos. Here, in this song, of course, there's a lot of the sun, because it literally translates as the general, i.e. Kim Jong-il, is always with us, and he lives on forever as the sun. Another thing you see a whole lot of is PAP. There's just huge amounts of stock footage of people working in the cooperative farms, in the factories. A lot of it is just news footage that they've repurposed. Often it's the same factories. So you see a lot of the textile factory. I think it's actually one of the major ones in Pyongyang, because I feel like I've seen it in the news quite a few times. And you'll see lots of mining, you'll see hydroelectric stations and things like that. It's fairly constant. Now, another thing you see a whole lot of is Kim Jong-un, the people person. They'll show him kissing kids, they'll show him kissing more kids. Here we have a family gushing over the fact that, I guess their daughter has taken a picture with him. Grinning, having a joke with workers or military officers. It's everywhere. There's the Solju, formerly of the Unhasu Orchestra. I mean, you see this stuff pretty much everywhere. It's very hard to tell these videos apart. If you took the lyrics off of the bottom and, you know, muted the audio, you could cut these together in any order, and probably even the people who made them wouldn't be able to tell them apart, because it's just constant stock footage. And then, it really wouldn't be a North Korean music video if it didn't have anything military. I mean, there'll be military parades, you'll see soldiers just sort of hanging out. You'll see footage of military maneuvers. I mean, there will be people in uniform at some point. Now, you'll notice one thing you do not see in any of this is the people actually who are singing. I mean, there's one exception to this. You'll see there are concert videos also, but other than that, you basically will not see the people, the singers. They are in the background narrating some stock footage. Now, I've just come up with a list of some of the really constantly present images, but there are quite a few others. For example, Mount Pictou, which we saw just a couple of clips ago, which in North Korea is associated completely with the Kim family. It's where Kim Il-sung is said to have spent the war fighting the Japanese. And so you see that a lot. What else do you see? Well, I mean, you see agricultural abundance. In fact, if you didn't watch the music videos, you probably wouldn't have any reason to believe there was agricultural abundance, because they have constant agricultural problems there. You'll see footage of new products. Kids' school bags are a popular one. You see that a lot. And all sorts of other things. I mean, traditionally, this genre has not been one that a huge amount of effort is put into. It's very much phoned in. You just clip together some stock footage that often is very literally related to the lyrics, and you just call it a day. I mean, there's very little care that really goes into them. I mean, not even on things like the transitions. I mean, sometimes you'll just have like a simple dissolve or something like that. This is sort of the style of North Korean music videos. This is Follow the Party Flag. The translations of the lyrics, incidentally, are by me. It is very popular in Western documentaries about North Korea. And because it's just got that sort of militaristic, sort of bombastic feel to it that just sort of fits in. For example, one documentary that you can see it in is Crossing the Line, a 2006 documentary about Joe Dresnock and several other U.S. soldiers who defected to the DPRK back in the 1960s and ended up playing a fairly major role in the film industry, playing the baddies.
It might be a different color, but God damn it, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to learn their way of life. I did everything I could, learning the language.
It's actually a worthwhile documentary. It's definitely worth checking out.
Their life.
However, the narration is, you can kind of forget all about it for the most part. Last I checked, one army per country is kind of the normal number of armies to have per country. But if you can get past the narration,
I've studied their idea, their revolutionary history.
It's actually really interesting.
Virtues,
definitely worth a watch. You'll notice, I mean, lots and lots of stock footage. Here's the Juche Tower, and then you've also got the Chollima statue. Chollima is playing a major role these days in the North Korean media. It translates literally as 1,000-mile horse, or 1,000-ri horse. And it is the horse that's too fast to be bridled. And where it comes in North Korea is in the 1950s, the post-war Reconstruction period. They had what they called the Chollima movement. Yeah, it was about moving, increasing productivity massively in order to rebuild after the war, since the war had left basically not one stone after another. The U.S. had intentionally destroyed their dams in order to wreck their agriculture, and the place was just completely wrecked. So they had a 3-year plan to rebuild it, and that was called the Chollima movement. Yeah, they decorated certain production units as Chollima production units because of their high productivity and everything. And these days you see that again. There are all sorts of references to the spirit of the 1950s post-war Reconstruction period in relation to the 5-year plan. The idea being that the effort involved in the 5-year plan in terms of producing more like consumer commodities and housing units and increasing electrical output should be in the same style. Similarly, it is also connected to the way that they present the importance of responding to the threat of coronavirus. That also is a source of many allusions to both the war and the spirit of the 1950s, which is the Chollima spirit. So you see Chollima quite a lot these days. And here we go with the genre of North Korean songs with suggestive titles. This one's called Higher, Faster. And they're talking about production figures. Here we have the sun. Yeah, because you just have to. Military stuff, along with a statue of posterized productive people. Roads. You see lots of roads. It's interesting. They're meant to suggest going fast, but they never are in the footage. Here we have a new factory. It looks kind of familiar. And construction machinery. Lots of it. a hydroelectric dam, green fields seen from the air. I think that's Kimsik University, or if not, it's Kim Il-sung University. Now, one thing about North Korean film and television, I mean, I'm just reminded of this just looking at those computer screens, is that unlike pretty much anywhere else, that I've watched movies from, you cannot just use the technology around in a scene to figure out when a film is supposed to be set or when it was made, because there is a lot of sort of unevenness in the introduction of technology. So, for example, in a recent movie I saw, British-North Korean co-production called Comrade Kim Goes Flying, Kim Dong-mu가 하늘 난다. You see corded phones everywhere. Every time somebody picks up a phone, it is a corded a phone plugged into the wall, and there's a just regular cassette boombox at one point in the background. But then the minute they start show some like TV and computer screens, it's like plasma flat screens. So, I mean, you could easily think that this was the 1980s, also from just the way, there's something about the film quality, I can't completely explain it. And then you switch over, and suddenly you've got, like, flat screen stuff, that's easily, this decade. It's very hard to tell anytime you watch one of these movies, just by looking at the scenery, when it's supposed to be. More road footage. Feeding the fish. And gathering the eggs. And new housing construction. That's another thing you see a lot of lately. Carrying on with the suggestive titles, we have Dugon Jong, which this is not my translation, this is theirs, Hot Feelings, which sounds like context in which you might be saying higher, faster. But as usual, the hot feelings are not what you might expect. Note, there's the sun, because of course there's the sun. This is a very common genre of song that you see particularly from the Moranbong band, which is the very gushy love song to Kim Jong-un. These are workers who I think have just received a bonus. New housing, as I was just saying, you see a lot of the new housing in the more recent videos. Yeah, because, I mean, according to the North Korean media anyway, they're in a construction boom, building all sorts of new housing units, including right now to replace housing units that were destroyed in last year's typhoon. There's the sun again. People excited because Kim Jong-un has just arrived. Or looking like he's about to try to score a three-point shot and they're trying to block it. You watch these over and over again as I have in order to make this video. You notice Kim Jong-un really can't really decide on a look. He goes... I mean, he seems to have settled on the mouse suits at this point, but I mean, for a while there was this long leather coat that he really liked to wear. Very vaguely kinky, actually. And then it's just regular sort of Western style suits, and then, I mean, yeah, just he's like he was trying on a new outfit every time, a new style of outfit every time he came out. Okay, here we go. There's the steel industry, and we're back in mining. I think that's the fertilizer factory. And the sun again. The rice planting. That Pyongyang textile factory. That's a bottling plant. The sun again. And the sun again. The sun gets a lot of airtime. Now let's just move on to the most recent videos that have been shown. I'm just going to show one example of them, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, why this is just a complete shift. Now, you've seen the several typical videos at this point, that they're just total stock footage festivals. It's just one clip from stock footage after another. It's mostly stuff that seems to have been pulled off of the news, because the visits to factories and collective farms and things like that, I mean, that is the sort of stock in trade of the North Korean media. But, you know, you never see the singers. You never see anything that suggests that the stuff was shot specifically for the purpose of the, for these videos. Now let's look at Our Mother, Uri Omoni, by the Ensemble of the State Affairs Commission, who are the band that's really getting all of the concerts lately. And with the lead singer is Kim Ok-ju and Cha Yun-mi. Kim Ok-ju in the most recent concert had something like 22 out of the 25 vocal solos I mean, she is just getting, she's everywhere. She was also in the Moranbong band. She was a soloist there as well. And so here we are. I mean, the first thing you're going to notice is the font's different. The whole style of the subtitles, the lyrics is different. It's not just matter-of-factly in what's called Gwangmyeong font, you know, written across the screen. It's actually, they've got this is a new font as far as I can tell. In some of the other ones they use a handwriting font as well. And immediately what we've got are the singers, the two soloists. In fact, here they are, and there's the conductor. And here we have, I mean, as I said early on, this stuff is not unfamiliar to any of us who've watched music videos from the last 30 years from, you know, US and Europe. I mean, this, you know, with the footage of them singing in the studio and the sheet music lying around and the microphones and everything, that, I mean, that is common. And these slow pans and all that, I mean, we're used to that. This is totally new over there. I mean, we haven't had a single bit of stock footage yet in this video. And now I did clip into sort of the middle of it, but I can tell you, having watched it before I decided which bits to clip, they didn't use any stock footage at all. Look at this. I mean, this is a totally different style. Again, here we have them, you know, knocking off after a sesh, or no, they're coming into a sesh, they're sharing a laugh, doing, you know, another more recording. I mean, it's the band that is being foregrounded here. Oh, no, and see, now we have them ruining their shoes on the beach. In white suits that I don't really do, I don't know about that choice given the white background. Well, of course we got the sun there. And that's the first bit of, like, stock imagery we've had in this entire thing. That's Kim Ok-joo. That's Cha Yun-mi. And notice the lyrics as well are more, somewhat more subtle than the usual. Like, here, this is the first explicit reference to the Workers' Party. Up until this point, and they're the symbol of the Workers' Party as well. In the background, the hammer, sickle, and the brush. And this is like literally the first explicit reference to the party in the whole thing. You could take that line out of there and it's just a song to one's mother, albeit a sort of a weird one, since but you just, this is something you've never seen, and that's Workers' Party headquarters. I mean, that is a stock image, although I do think that this has been reshot because the light is different, the quality of the footage is different. But, I mean, what you see in this is just a radical departure from the entire style that they've used for literally decades. Ever since they've been making music videos, and it's interesting at a time when it seems that they're sort of trying to water down the personality cult around Kim Jong-un, not so much around his father and grandfather, Kim Jong-un and Kim Il-sung, but certainly around Kim Jong-un, that suddenly you have these videos that actually foreground the artists, where it's basically, the narrative here is the artists. In terms of the visual, they go into the venue, they record a set, they leave, they show up on the beach and just in white suits and play violin and ruin their shoes. But it's all the artists. You see the conductor, for example. You know, you see the soloists. And it's only at the very end that there's any reference at all that is explicitly to the party. Now, somebody listening to this in North Korea is already used to the idea that the party is referred to as the mother. There are a huge number of songs on that line. It is a constant theme. But the thing is, that has never actually stopped North Korean musicians, music video producers, and songwriters from just hammering it home one more time, you know, just so nobody could possibly mistake it. But here you have actually a pretty, I mean, it's by North Korean standards very subtle. You know, Kim Jong-un doesn't get mentioned, the Workers' Party doesn't get mentioned till the very end. I mean, you do have the sun in there. But even the sun, compared to the suns that they've used elsewhere, first of all, it's a new shot. It's just higher quality than a lot of the others, and it is actually a relatively small amount of screen real estate, and you know, in terms of the amounts of attention that is directed at it, the visuals are all, you know, these singers and the venues they're in and them recording and all this stuff, which, I mean, you know, on a symbolic level really does seem like watering down the personality cult. And now when I say that Kim Ok-ju is the flavor of the month, actually, here you will see the State Affairs Commission Ensemble, including their conductor, who we saw in the video, including the lead singer Kim Ok-ju, and I think Cha Yoon-mi as well, getting you know, official state honors. They are just extremely big at the moment, and you basically can't have a concert without them, as far as I can tell. I'm recording this before, as far as I know, the concert for the Victory Day celebrations for July 27th has been aired. It was not aired on the day. I assume there was one because they never don't have one. I mean, it's particularly for a major holiday like that, but as far as I know, it hasn't actually been aired yet. But I am fairly certain that it will be the State Affairs State Affairs Commission Ensemble again. So, this is why I'm telling you about this. The thing about North Korea is it's extremely hard to really make any sense out of anything that's going on because of just the huge amount of bullshit around it, as we already discussed before. But occasionally you get these kind of signs that kind of telegraph that maybe something is going on there, that something interesting is happening, that there's some sort of reshuffle going on. And these music videos, in the context of the other things that we've talked about at the beginning, really do strongly suggest that there is starting to be a move away from so much emphasis on the cult of personality, at least relating to the current leader, who isn't even referred to as leader at this point anymore. He's just Comrade General Secretary, or respected Comrade Kim Jong-un. And so it's definitely an interesting time to be following what's going on there, and I'll probably do some more content on this subject. Thank you for watching if you've made it this far. I know this was a long one, although most of mine are long ones. And thank you to all my Patreon supporters. If you would like to become a Patreon supporter and support my work materially, my Patreon link will be appearing on screen. And if you'd like to see more of me, I'm streaming every Friday and Saturday from 11:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And it's a chill stream where there's chess, there's some GeoGuessr, and dunking on some reactionaries, and just chat on any subject any comrade wants to bring up. Love to see you there. Thank you for watching. This has been the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel.